Felicia Rateliff with the What If 360, and I am here with Steve Hargadon, and we're going to talk a little bit about what he does and what the Reinventing Education What If 360 Asheville event is all about. Then that's coming up in a couple of weeks. So I will let Steve introduce himself and get started letting us know what all this is, what's going on. Hi, Steve.
Thanks. Nice to be here. We've survived the technical difficulties. Hey, okay, so I wanted to give sort of a short story here. It's a story of my own background, but it kind of helps us to get to this event, and it also helps us to get to what I think is a profound viewpoint about school and education that we really need to be taking seriously right now. So my involvement in this really started with open source software in education. So I was selling refurbished computers, sort of an environmental solution to schools, and began to look at the Linux and the open source world as a solution for making school computing more affordable. And it's kind of stunning once you're willing to go to Linux how cheaply a school can actually be running its computers. But that's not really what the market wants to do. But we could put in 40 or 50 computers using Linux terminal server project. Linux is a thin client with used computers. And the students had a very robust, very good computing environment, in some cases for under $1,000 for the whole lab in terms of physical hard costs. It was pretty phenomenal. And what that experience told me was that people aren't actually buying what's good and working, but they buy what sort of fits in the sales channels and what provides profitability for companies with regard to education. And it was a very interesting experience. And at the end of it, sort of basically, for lack of interest, sort of shut the project down. It was called Technology Rescue. I gave a talk at the O'Reilly Open Source Conference and said, why open source software in education is dead. And the reason was that Google came in and provided a lot of the services that open source software had been providing. And people were really not interested necessarily in the freedom and the benefits of open source software. They were interested in the low cost. And I realized open source software for me was a surrogate for a kind of way of thinking about education in which there was agency and creation involved. Right? So one of my favorite projects was this group of students who would take old used computers, install Linux on them, and put them in low-income housing and apartment complexes. It was just a brilliant thing, and so much better than, say, learning Word or PowerPoint in a class in the classroom. I mean, these kids were learning skills that at the end of their high school experience made them employable. They were using the LAMP stack in the open source world. So that really kind of opened my eyes to the sort of difference between how we talk about education and the individual capacity and experiences and what we really do in a lot of school circumstances. And open source software led very easily for me into Web 2.0. I started Classroom 2.0, which was the first modern social network for teachers, and discovered the same things interested me, right? Which was this opportunity for teachers to interact with each other in peer-to-peer relationships as creators. Blogging. I started an annual event on conference called EduBloggerCon, where the educational bloggers got together and talked to each other. And there was this sort of magic of being creators and being participants rather than being sort of passive observers, especially for teachers. Okay, so then I started these online conferences where we sort of broke the conference model. These are all under learningrevolution.com now. But I do a Future of Libraries conference, a Future of Museums conference, and these conferences, because you're not bounded by time and space constraints, you can accept every proposal. So this sort of magic moment in every professional's life where they present to their peers can be available to everybody. You're not worried about the number of rooms that are available or how much time you have. You have an online event. So we do an annual event called the Global Education Conference that has 400 to 500 presentations, right, from teachers all over the globe and students who are presenting to each other. So this is really an interesting kind of thread, right, that brought me to this place. But the conclusion for me has been that we talk about education in terms of sort of liberating individual capacity, but mostly what we actually do in schooling is that we reward compliance and we exert control. And my experiences with technology, educational technology, have shown that this story plays out in terms of how we think about adopting technology. Are we adopting technology to control and manage and measure, or are we adopting technology to allow for creation and capacity and agency and individual potential? And the truth is, unfortunately, most people who leave the U.S. high school system leave believing they're not good learners, rather than believing they've somehow fulfilled some inherent capability. So reinventing education is really about reinventing education, right? So this is an event in which, both by virtue of the structure of the event and by the topic, we're really talking about how do we get back to thinking about education in much healthier terms. Right? And this is a debate that goes back millennia, right, to Socrates and Plato. It's this debate about, are you using questions to draw out the latent potential and capacity of an individual, or are you managing their education to form them to fit into the republic in a way that you believe as a leader they should be fitting in? So reinventing education sort of marries the Matt Murray What If 360 concept of presentations and then brainstorming and activities together with the thing I love to do, the unconference, for the second half of the day, where we really try and hopefully create this place for deep conversation and individual thinking about learning. And this, to me, is sort of at the core then of this idea of learning as a process, right, and going through the process and having those individual experiences of engagement with others where we talk about something, and it's not about somebody in a committee somewhere in Washington, D.C. deciding these are the 12 skills that a student needs to have. But it's about everybody in their local communities getting together and engaging around this conversation of what do we want our children to learn and why, and what's the ultimate goal. And for me, this is really a key moment, right? It's a willingness to question the system of compliance and control and actually look at how do we hold conversations that re-engage us in a very democratic process of building learning experiences for our children. How'd we do?
That's awesome. No, I'm so excited about it. What did you start out teaching?
I've never been a teacher.
You never did? Okay.
No.
Well, because a lot of the things that you're talking about, I actually used to be a teacher. I taught a career education program, like a VOTEC is what we used to call it. But I taught a 2-year, 3-hour-a-day program for graphic arts and printing, and that's how I taught. Like, I took what the students needed to be employable, and I applied those skills, and then I taught them how to learn, not rather than teaching them certain things. So they learned a lot of stuff that had nothing to do with graphic arts, and probably most of the students I taught for 7 years, most of them probably don't do anything in graphic arts or graphic design, but they learned problem solving, and they learned how to apply skills, and they learned technology and all that. And I'm such a proponent of that, but everywhere I go, talking about my experiences in teaching that way, say, I didn't know schools did that, and that sounds like it makes a lot of sense, but how come nobody's doing that at other schools? And they are, but people aren't just talking about it and making it happen, everywhere.
Somehow in our cultural heart we know that this process of helping somebody grow is a one-to-one process. It's touching the life of somebody. We all have a story of someone who touched our lives and helped us to see something differently and to see potential in ourselves and to grow. And that's very different than this narrative now we've got of mandated testing and sort of this idea that we're going to measure people and we're going to understand something about them and draw conclusions about them when they're still growing and they still have potential. I mean, my own father, who was chairman of the College Board, Dean of Admissions at Stanford and Dean of Admissions at Princeton, if he had been measured and weighed at age 20, he would have been found wanting, right? I mean, he went into the Army and kind of found himself, and then he came out, and a boy who would never have gone to college went to college. And the idea that we're somehow going to know enough about somebody through metrics and data to be able to determine where they should go and what their potential is egregious. Right? I mean, it just, we should all be standing up and screaming, no, my child is not defective. My child is not this petri dish for pharmacological experiments to try and keep them complacent because they're sitting at a desk all day. No, my child is not going to become your widget in some factory system where you have a perceived view of where we're going to be societally. Every child has this unique latent potential and capability, That doesn't mean it's all going to get fulfilled. It's not, we're not talking unicorns and rainbows here, right? This is hard work, but it is individual work, and it's the work that parents do, every day laboring to help your child gain a vision of themselves and their capacity in the world. And this shortcut of mandated testing and measuring and believing that we can actually determine where and how people should do things is maddening.
Yeah, I agree. Get into it, some deep stuff straight up. Yeah. So what do you know some of the speakers who are going to be talking, or any of the what if questions that are going to be discussed?
Well, the fun thing is that I don't know most of them, but I love all the topics. Right, so David Lurcher's coming from Utah, and he's the Learning Commons guy, and I love David, and so that I can say, is terrific. But most of the people who are talking, I've actually never heard before, but I love what they're talking about, right? And they're challenging the system, right? They're saying, what if, we did away with grades? These are questions that we should be asking. Why do these structures exist that we currently rely on, and are they really what's going to be healthy in terms of education? And for me, and that's not even the core of the magic that will happen in an event like this. We did this event a year ago without the what if portion. It was just the unconference day. It was the first Reinventing Education event. And it's this connecting with other people and having deep conversations and realizing this is not a policy decision. This is not somebody else's decision. This is reclaiming the conversation on learning. This is you and me having a discussion. This is me saying, for my own child at this particular point in time, homeschooling is the best option, or a chartered school that has a focus on this, or a magnet school. It's reclaiming that ability to be in that conversation, and not that the experts are the ones who decide what's best for children.
Yeah, and bringing that what if 360 component to it is going to be so amazing, because based on the other events and experiences that we've had, having that time after you're listening to someone questioning and talking about a topic, and then getting to collaborate about it and brainstorm and then come up with an action steps following is so powerful, because a lot of this stuff, it's not new now. People have been talking about that education needs to change for years, and now it's become really prevalent, but the way to get there is not always discussed. It's like, yes, we want to do something, we're all excited about it, and then we walk away from whatever conference it is that we're going to. So I'm really excited that we'll be able to really create things that after you walk away from that day can continue on, and people kind of have an idea of, here's some things that we can actually do to make this stuff happen.
Absolutely agree. And this will be my first What If conference. So this is my first experience.
You're just going to have so much fun.
I'm totally looking forward to it. We've actually expanded. We had so many people apply to speak that the night before, not everybody's going to be able to get there the night before, but we were going to have a dinner, and then we were going to watch an educational film together. We've actually turned that into the first block of What If speakers, because we have so many people who are interested in talking, who have great things to say, that we're going to try and start on Friday night and then carry through into Saturday.
That's awesome. And so for anybody who's watching this and doesn't know exactly what's going to happen with the what if part, what happens is we have 8-minute talks. So a speaker gives an 8-minute presentation based on a what if question. And then you have, and I think we're going to do it this way for Asheville, correct me if I'm wrong, but we'll have 3 speakers in a row. So that takes about a half hour. And then we have 30 minutes where everyone gets together in small groups, about 10 people or so, and we have a process where you dump out ideas that you heard of from the questions from the speakers, and then you discuss about that, and then you design action steps based on it. So after every 3 speakers or so, everyone gets to collaborate and talk about what they just did. So the conference is not like a sit and get kind of deal. It's like everyone gets to participate and really draw out a lot of cool stuff from each other and interact. It's very great. And having that in education, with the education, reinventing education, I just can't wait to see what's going to happen.
We've had about 50 people email and say, bring this to our community. So now they've got this nice long list of other places that we hope to go, and say, yeah, let's hold this conversation in as many places as we can. Let's talk about this and let's build action steps. And there's this sort of process of you can't you can't know what's going to work or how to change things unless you try. And so there's this process of sort of agile development, right? It's the minimally viable product. Come up with some ideas, put them out there, and within your community report back. Okay, this worked and this didn't, right? This particular idea was gold. This one was a little bit of lead. But that's how you're actually going to shift things and start playing around with ideas.
Yep, the only way to do something is just to do it. You know, we can talk about it all day long, but it's about people who just go out there and do things and then figure it out after if it worked or not.
Yeah. We're super excited about this and really can't wait. It's coming up in 10 days. The Friday night is March 27th. And February 27th. And then February 28th is the actual all-day event in Asheville. And then March 1st, the Sunday, people are going to have opportunities to gather together and keep talking if they want, and lots of fun outdoor activities, if the temperature gets a little bit warmer here.
Oh, I don't want to hear about it. I'm in Missouri, and we have 6.5 inches of snow or more, and it is 6 degrees today. So any temperature is probably going to be warmer in Asheville than it is here. So it's a good excuse to get out there.
Yes, Asheville's gorgeous, and Asheville has an incredible culture. So if you haven't been to Asheville and you're considering coming, please do come because you will love the culture here. There's amazing food culture. If you're a health food person, there are hundreds of organizations all around organic food, permaculture, all of those kinds of activities. It is an amazing place.
And have you guys got a preferred hotel or anything that everybody's going to gather at?
We have a list of places to stay. Part of what makes Asheville delightful is also also leads to sort of higher hotel prices because it is a tourist destination. And so we've got a good list of places that you can consider that aren't necessarily downtown but close by if budget's an issue. And it is, it's a tourist place. The Biltmore is here, right? So it draws that sort of crowd. But whatever your budget is, you'll find a place and we'll make sure you're there.
Yes, and if you're interested in going, you can go on our website, whatif360.com, and there is links to go to the Eventbrite page, and there is a Facebook event that will tell you all about it. And this experience is it's not just for teachers at all. It's definitely for teachers, students, parents, people in education technology, people who are just interested in change in education because education affects every one of us and our children. So it's really something for everybody, and everyone participates in a What If 360 experience and the Unconference experience. So it's definitely different from any other conference where you would just sit and listen to information and take that away. You actually participate with the speakers and the offstage presenters, which we like to call the other participants. So encourage everybody to get online and get a ticket and head to Asheville.
Absolutely. You can also go to www.reinventing.education, and the same information is there.
Awesome. All right. You got any last words or anything?
No.
That's it.
Go forward. Make change.
All right. All right. Thank you so much.